So picture this. It's 2009 and you're going to be building your first competitive Pokemon team. You know that you want to use a Infernape. It's going to be your lead. It's got Stealth Rock and Fake Out. It seems really solid. You also have a defensive tank. It's going to be a Swampert. Really, really versatile, and it can take hits like a champ. You're looking for somebody that can take special hits a little bit better, and you stumble across Blisy. Its special defense and HP are off the charts, and it can actually heal your Pokemon with Wish and Aromatherapy. Seems really, really good. You say, okay, I'm going to use this Blisy set. And you get everything set up to start breeding a Blisy, and you go, okay, well, I need to know if any of these are egg moves. You start searching, and what's that? Wish isn't a level up move. It's not actually an egg move. It's not a TM. It's not even a move tutor in Platinum. Well, you know what? Heart Gold and Soul Silver are out in Japan. Maybe it's a Heart Gold and Soul Silver tutor. Check there. No, actually, it's not. It's not even a Prevo move. One of those moves that only Happiny or Chansey could. How do you get this move? So you go to Google. You do some investigative searching. You figure out, actually, everyone else is having the same exact problem as you. How do I get this move? Well, it turns out it's on an event from 2004 that lasted 3 weeks. Only in New York City. Only on Fire Red and Leaf Green. So normally this actually wouldn't be a huge deal. Action Replays can inject Gen 4 events all the time, and I had one back then, but actually, the Gen 3 events, for the most part, can't be injected this way. I think it's because back then, whatever you were getting the event from, sometimes it was a special GameCube disc, and other times it was just another custom GBA game. Those things would actually generate the events for you instead of your game itself. Your games in Gen 4 are the ones generating the events. They just receive a wonder card to say, hey, make this guy. And because of that, you can't inject the event, and you can't get the Chansey. You can't do it. The only way you can get this event is by downloading a Chansey egg or a hatch Chansey that someone else already received. And you can't edit the IVs. You can't edit the nature. The actual only thing you can change is if it's shiny or not. You could do that by trading it to other games and then hatching it to see if it hatches shiny, and if not, reset, trade to another game. Sort of like how the Manaphy shiny hunt works in Gen 4, if you're familiar with that. So, if you can't edit any of these things, how are people getting a Wish Chansey or Wish Blisy? They're hacking. Or they would be, if it wasn't for glitches, baby. So, before I get underway with how I'm going to go about getting the Wish Chansey event with glitches, I want to set up a few parameters that I have first. The first thing is, I want this to be fully legal, and I want it to be legal by both Pokemon Company standards and by PKHex standards. And I know you might be thinking, well, why do you care what PKHex, the hacking tool? What does that matter? Well, actually, PKHex has insanely rigorous hack checking, and to the point where it's actually better than Game Freak's official hack check tool. You can send up events that were totally illegal into Gens 5, 6, and 7 and beyond, but PKHex will immediately recognize them. For example, I actually have a shiny Articuno from Pokemon XD sitting in Pokemon Home right now. And that's not legal. That's impossible. But I glitched it to be shiny, and Pokemon Company doesn't care. But PKHex cares. Now, I want it to be legal because, if I'm honest with you, getting a illegal Wish Chansey or Wish Blisy is really easy. In Gen 3 and 4, there's multiple different glitches to get any move you want onto any Pokemon. And honestly, it's just not a challenge. If I wanted to do that, I could have it done in minutes. The second restriction that I really want to have is I don't want to use any arbitrary code execution if I can avoid it. Now, I think Ace is super cool, and I've used it to get a ton of different Pokemon and a ton of events before, and I think that's really the heart of it, is it's really cool that you can access all the old event islands using it. But after I used it to help me get some Pokemon, it felt more like I was using a cheat code in an action replay to get a Pokemon that I wanted instead of actually doing the work to get it. Now, if you like to use Ace codes this way, it's just not my thing. I have nothing against you doing it. People in my Discord and stuff like that do it all the time, and I've done it before too. I just don't want to do it that way. And part of the reason, at least, I don't want to do it that way is because it lets me experiment with the Pommet glitch and Glitzer popping. These are glitches I've never really messed with before, and when I was a kid, I loved glitches in Pokemon games, and I still do to this day. But I was very familiar with Missingno, and in Gen 2, I was very familiar with the cloning glitch, But by the time all this glitzer popping stuff was discovered, I was already out of playing Pokemon Emerald. And I've never really gotten into it again because it seems like kind of dangerous to me. It seems scary, but I have an extra Emerald cartridge, and it's the perfect time to delve into something like this to really understand it. And it's actually a lot more stable than I thought it was. All right, so with all of my parameters set up, the first thing I think we need to do is figure out what's different between a Wish Chansey and a regular Chansey. And the easiest way to do that is to take a look at the Wish Chansey event that someone uploaded onto Project Pokemon. So this is a fully legal actual event from back in the day, and let's just examine a few differences between it and the Chansey with just Wish, what we need to do to make it legal. The first thing we need to take note here of is the PID, or the personality value. You see, in Gen 3 and 4, because of how the games generate Pokemon, not every PID, which is a value that determines nature, gender, shininess, and ability, can be assigned to every single IV combination. And using a tool in Pokefinder called PID to IVs, we can see every possible IV combo that can exist on this PID. Then we can take a look at this egg's IVs and see which method it lines up. And we can see that it's a method 2 Chansey. Now, methods are also something that's sort of, it's another quirk of Pokemon generation in Gen 3. And method 2 can be generated on all of the GBA games, technically, although it's really rare in all of them except Emerald version. So that likely means we're going to have to be starting with Pokemon Emerald, or a Pokemon caught in Emerald version anyway. Well, okay, so what other information is important about this Chansey? Well, for one, it has the move Wish, obviously. It also has Sweet Scent, but that's not actually required, so I'm going to ignore that. The only other specific stuff to this that is different from a normal Chansey is that it has the Faithful Encounter checkbox, also known as the Obedience Flag. It's in a Pokeball, and the game origin is Fire Red and Leaf Green. Now, the other stuff about this Chansey actually doesn't matter, and that's because it's all reset upon hatching. You see, when you hatch an egg like this, the OT, the TID, and the Met location and Met level are all reset because the egg is hatching again. But the game origin, the Pokeball, and the Faithful Encounter checkbox actually don't reset upon rehatch. So those are things that we also need to alter permanently. Okay, so I need a Method 2 Pokemon. I want it to have Wish. I need it to have Origin Game of Fire Red and Leaf Green. I need it to be in a Pokeball, and I need it to have the Faithful Encounter checkbox check. All right, so the first step to figure out all of this stuff is to get a target PID. So I'm going to generate a list of all possible Method 2 spreads with an IV and Nature combination I want. I want 31 in every stat except attack, and I want it to be a bold nature with the ability Natural Cure. Now, I just need to figure out which one of these spreads is corruptible to me in a useful way. So, how Pokemon's data is shifted around during corruption is actually determined by its PID. So, what I do to narrow down my candidates is use this website's PID analyzer to figure out what corruption type it is. Then I check how that corruption type's data swaps upon corrupting. Now, I've been very light on how corruption works until this point, so let's use the PID I ended up going with as an example of what I'm trying to do with this Chansey. So I want to alter this Pokemon's species, game origin, Faithful Encounter checkbox, and its Pokeball, and I don't want to touch any other information about it. With the PID I picked, which is Corruption Type 3, when its PID corrupted, the first move's hexadecimal value becomes its species, and its species becomes its first move. Move slot 2 becomes held item, and held item becomes move 2. And moves 3 and 4 are both experience points, and experience points are both moves 3 and 4. All of these are important to us. The next stuff to pay attention to is growth. You want to make sure the EXP you have doesn't cause you to have a glitch move that you can't erase. And you'll also notice that there's a section here called Unused Bites. This has to do with bites on every single Pokemon that are always the same. If we alter these in any way, it becomes obvious that there's something wrong or our Pokemon was altered in a weird way. So to make sure that these stay unused and stay the same, on Recorrupt, we just have no moves in slots 3 or 4. So last but not least is the miscellaneous section. This is where our Pokeball and Game Origin are stored. They're in the defense and speed EVs after a corruption. The Faithful Encounter checkbox is actually stored in a Pokemon's field, which is how full it is after corruption. We want to avoid altering special attack or special defense EVs, and we also want to avoid altering the coolness and beauty contest stats. That's actually where ability and IVs are stored. The last thing we have to really worry about is when you PID corrupt Pokemon, it turns into an egg. Now, to get it to not be an egg, you think, oh, I gotta hatch this guy. But actually, if you do that, all the EVs and contest stats are cleared, and all of the hard work we've done in order to preserve these things, like our IVs, are going to be wiped out. But luckily, there is a solution, and it's called the double corrupt. You see, this whole time, I've been talking just about PID corruption. But there's another type, and it's called TID corruption. The only thing this really does is both turn your Pokemon into an egg, like PID corrupts, and corrupt the TID, which gets cleared on egg hatch anyway. But if you do both a TID and PID sequentially, when you corrupt an egg, it actually just makes it no longer an egg. And that means, since you're not actually hatching it, all of the EVs and stuff are stored properly. So what we're going to have to do to get this Chansey is a double corrupt. So now that I have a target PID, I need to figure out what is the ideal Pokemon to corrupt into my Chansey. So to start, I learned that the move I need to have on recorrupt is Light Screen. By using the Substructure Organizer tool, I can see that Light Screen shares the same hexadecimal value as Chansey. So my Pokemon I catch needs to be capable of learning a move that can turn it into a Pokemon that can learn Light Screen, so that when I recorrupt it, it will be able to turn into a Chansey. Now, Wish's hex number unfortunately corresponds to the item Pokeblock case, which is not a hold item. However, if the Pokemon knows Wish pre-corrupt, then it will have Pokeblock case as a held item, and as long as I don't take it off, it'll stay that item on recorrupt and turn back into Wish. This ideal Pokemon turned out to be Natu. It learns Wish by level up, and it can learn Light Screen to turn into a Chansey. Chansey also learns Light Screen, so that means I'm actually turning this Pokemon into a Chansey twice. So now we have to actually get the Natu. Now we're getting in an Emerald, which actually has some broken RNG, and the Natu I want is actually on frame 16,817,165. This is actually about a 32-hour wait. Not that bad using battle videos. What effectively I do is get into a battle and wait 32 hours or thereabouts, and then go and save a battle video. Then I load up the battle video, and it actually just jumps me back to the frame that I was previously on when I saved it, and I can easily catch the Natu. The actual more annoying part is it's in the Safari Zone, which is like kind of annoying, but not that big of a deal. So once I've caught the Natu, I both leveled it up to check its IVs to make sure I've got the correct Natu, and once I confirm using this IV calculator that it is correct, I get it to 30 so it can learn Wish. After it knows Wish, I have to give it Light Screen. I actually had to go to the mart to buy some of those TMs. Light Screen goes in slot 1 because that is the move that will turn it into a Chansey, and Wish is going into slot 2 because that will give it Pokeblock case and preserve Wish. After that, I have to go to the move deleter, and I have to remove both moves 3 and 4. This will prevent me from having glitch moves, and it will preserve some bytes regarding the PP of my moves. Once I do both of these things, the Natu is fully ready for corruption. But this emerald that I caught it on is not where I'm going to do the corruption. This is my main emerald, my most important emerald. So I'm going to walk Natu over to the trade booth, and I'm going to trade it to my other emerald, where I have all of the corruption stuff set up already. So the thing about corruption is that it doesn't always work every single time. In fact, it's kind of random. So to make corruption more likely, you need to get what are called corruption initiators, and you need to put them next to the Pokemon that you want to corrupt in your box. One is really easy to get. It's plus is the trade plusle. You get this from an in-game trade in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and you delete all the moves except Growl. Then it's ready to go. The other one is a bit more involved, and it's called the Heart Lickitung. This is a trade Lickitung from Fire Red and Leaf Green that you have to make 6 Pokeblocks using Chesto Berries for. They'll turn out to be level 12 blue Pokeblocks and have a 23 in feel. Then you have to give it all 6 of those Pokeblocks. And give it a calcium. Then you give it a heart mark, and now you clone it and keep it safely in a box somewhere. so that you have an infinite amount of them. Once I do both of these, I can begin my double corruption. So the first thing I do is cloning. Normally you could use the battle tower glitch for this, but instead I have the fast clone Pokemon, which lets me instantly set up copies for corruption, and it also lets me make backups very quickly. So in case anything goes wrong, I have a copy of the Natu, Pluses, and Lickitung. Then I set up the Pokemon in the order of Initiator and then Corrupt Target for rows 3 and 4 of box number 2, because that's what this guide Sleipnir17 said to do for double corruption. I'm also going to be utilizing what's called the Fast Pomeg glitch instead of your ordinary regular Pomeg glitch. The fast clone Pokemon that I have can actually reliably produce what's called an invisible bad egg, and you can glitch or pop using that instead of the Pomeg berry. It's just a bit faster than normal. So now it's time to glitch or pop. So I save with the healthy Pokemon in the lead, a fainted Pokemon in slot 2, and another healthy Pokemon in slot 3. I get into a battle and I swap my first Pokemon for my third Pokemon and I leave the battle. Then I head to the Pokemon Center and deposit my lead Pokemon and swap the bad egg for my other healthy Pokemon. So now I just have the bad egg and a fainted Pokemon. Then I head into battle and I'll send out a question mark. And you can do the infinite scrolling glitch by looking at a summary of your valid Pokemon, and then when you back out of it, you can scroll upwards infinitely, and that'll cause corruption to happen. After a few seconds, I run from the battle and go into the Pokemon Center to check if anything is corrupted. If it's not, I reset and I do it again. All I'm looking for is a Pokemon that says egg instead of bad egg. I get lucky and I have 2 of these. Now I have to do it again with the different corruption initiator. So I have a few Lickitungs and I set them up in the initiator pose. So once you have the corruption, the first one anyway, done, you actually can't move the Pokemon. So I only have 2 eggs here from this corruption. That means that I can't get any more of them. You can't clone them or anything like that because they can't move, or else the double corruption will fail. So the odds of succeeding are way, way lower. But once that's done, I'm going to set up the other corruption initiator in front of each egg. In my case, it's Lickitung. If you had planned a little bit better, then I wouldn't have to have 2 different initiators, but this was the hand I was dealt. So once the Lickitungs are cloned and ready to go, and they're in front of the eggs as they're supposed to be, the process is actually just the same as it was before. We just get into the battle like we were, and you just do this dozens of times and hoping that you succeed. So the process is exactly the same as last time, but I'm going to show it anyway. This took an insane amount of time. So you just send out your healthy Pokemon, swap to your second healthy Pokemon. This preserves the fact that you had just sent out a healthy Pokemon into battle, and the game thinks that when you have no Pokemon, that you actually have one when you send out the glitched question mark guy. So now I have to go put the bad egg in my party. Luckily, the fast clone Pokemon produces this thing, because otherwise I would be having to reduce some Pokemon's HP down to 0 every single time, but you can just put the invisible guy in the party like that, and you're free to corrupt away. There's actually even a faster method to do this, but I don't remember how. I'm sure Sleipnir has a video on it. So after that, I get into another battle, and I will send out the question mark, or Decamark, as I think it is known in the community. And once you view your healthy Pokemon summary, or your non-glitched Pokemon summary, you can just scroll. This will slowly scroll over memory values it's not supposed to. You got to reach box 2, and as the cursor scrolls over those memory spots, it corrupts them in weird ways because they're not expecting to have the cursor actually hover over them. As I was saying, this took an insanely long time. This full double corruption took me like 2.5 hours or something like that. But at the end of it, I have the Chansey named Natu, and it's holding a Pokeblock case, which is exactly what we wanted, because Wish turned into the Pokeblock case. And when I corrupt it again, backwards, the other way, it will turn back into Wish. It is a Chansey because it had light screen in the first move. And Chansey learns light screen, so I'm going to be teaching it light screen in the first move as well. But now that we successfully have our Chansey, we're going to save the game. The thing about this is that you can't check the moves on this thing because it could crash the game. So you want to save first, and then you want to delete the moves up in another way, using the daycare or something like that. So the next thing we have to do something about is this glitch move here. As you can see, it causes the game to instantly crash. It also does have Aeroblast. It has Aeroblast because it used to be a Natu, and Natu's internal hex number corresponds to the move Aeroblast. So the best way to deal with a glitch move like that is to level it up at the daycare. And that's one of the reasons we actually want this thing to be level 0, so that we can get it as much experience points as possible to make sure that we always can level it up to teach it a new move automatically that way. Because a lot of these moves will crash through the summary. So, once we deposit this Chansey, we're just going to level up by running around on the bicycle. The daycare automatically removes moves as you level up, so you just have to do that enough to where the Chansey has none of the moves. You can check through the contest moves to see if the glitch move is gone. A lot of them don't crash through the contest summary, but crash in the regular summary or when you try and delete them. So now let's give Chansey the proper moves. It actually only needs one move, which is light screen, so that when we corrupt it again, attack and species will swap and it will stay a Chansey. We don't want any other moves, so after we give it light screen, I'm going to head over to the move deleter and delete all the other moves that it has. So with our attacks in order, we need to move on to our EVs. The first thing we have to do is delete the EVs that are currently there that represent our game origin and our Pokeball from before. And I do that using tomato and qualot berries. You can just use as many berries as you need until it says the stat can't go any lower. Once that's done, it means you have no EVs in that stat. Then all I need to do is give it 34 in speed EVs to set the game origin and the Pokeball correctly. I give it 3 Carbos, they give 10 each. And then after I do that, I kill 2 Wingles, and it's at 34. Once that's done, we're actually almost ready. We just have to give it enough Pokeblocks to have a proper field stat for the obedience checkbox. So in order to get the Pokeblocks I need, I have to play the berry blending game with the old man in Lily Cove. I end up using Lychee berries for my Pokeblocks to get level 60 and level 61 gold Pokeblocks, and they have a feel of 50. Feeding 3 of them to my Chansey will allow me to get the feel above 128, which is all that matters. Because getting it above 128 just sets the obedient checkbox. Anything else that this is altering, so if you notice they are affecting a contest stat, they're affecting cuteness. But the thing about that is cuteness and the other contest stats that aren't cool or beauty are affecting things that get cleared on rehatch. I believe they affect both the ribbons and your met location, which will change when I hatch this Chansey out of an egg. And after I feed it all 3 of these Pokeblocks, Chansey's ready for the recorruption. Also, ignore all of the super glitched Pokeblocks I have. They will instantly max out every single contest stat, so you just instantly win contests. I got them using arbitrary code execution, and they are not useful for this purpose. So I do another agonizingly long double corrupt, which takes me 2.5 hours, but I finally have my the glitch move in slot 3 or 4, I don't know which one, caused the game to crash when I viewed it. And now I have to do it all over again. But luckily, after only 20 minutes, I get the second corruption done. I learned from my error this time. It being bold is enough of a sign for me to save anyway. If something else was not right, I could easily just try again since I've got many clones and backups. So now I got to delete all the moves off of this thing, and then we've got a fully legal Wish Chansey. And if you checked in PK Hex, it would read that way. And I could check, but I don't want to just have a legal Wish Chansey. I want to have a legal Wish Chansey that's shiny. So the next thing I'm going to do is quickly TID corrupt. This is because doing a TID corrupt won't affect anything except it turns the Pokemon into an egg. So I've gotten the moves back to normal, and you can see I've put Wish in move slot 2. That's because TID corruption will actually always glitch out move slots 1 and 3. So any moves you want to preserve, put in move slots 2 or 4. With that all set up, I clone the Chansey and the TID initiator a bunch, and I set them up as such in order for the optimal corruption to happen. This still takes a long time. Just the TID corrupt for this took me 49 minutes. So even though you're not doing a double corrupt, it still has a low chance of success. And in my personal experience, TID corrupt is the one that I've had more trouble getting to properly happen. For some reason, it just seems to be less common for me, but this is all sort of random based on anecdotal evidence. But the process is the same as before. Get into a battle and get your deca mark or your question mark, whatever you want to call it. And scroll upwards. You only have to corrupt enough for boxes 1 and 2, and with so many Chanseys and so many TID initiators, you'll eventually get it. Now, the one thing about this is once I get the egg, it's likely for you to get more than one egg as well. So here I probably got like 3 or 4 eggs total. And I think when you do that, the best way is to hatch one of them just to make sure that you preserve the move properly. So I'm going to hatch this egg here just to double check that I put Wish in the right slot. You don't want to mess that up. And as long as you have Wish, you're good to go. That means you can actually attempt to RNG for a shiny one now, as long as you have more TID eggs waiting for you. So for the TID RNG, it's really easy. I actually have a full video on how to do this. If you want to check that out, I'll have a card pop up. But basically, I just copy and paste the PID into Pokefinder, and it will tell me what frame to hit my ID RNG on to make that shiny. Now, I mean, this is a frame perfect trick, but, you know, it's not going to be that bad. And I think Ruby Sapphire is the best game to do this in. TID RNG is basically impossible in Emerald or in Fire Red and Leaf Green. And I don't think you can trade eggs to Colo, so it wouldn't even be useful there, even though you can RNG them in that game. I opted to go for the OT Wish with the female trainer because I thought that it would match Chansey and Blissy's gender, always being a girl, and Wish is the signature move, so I just thought it would be a cute name. And other than that, you just have to wait a while until you get your desired trainer ID. So once you get your trainer ID, you're pretty much set. You just have to play long enough until you're able to trade. The one thing to consider is that after you trade it, you have to find a way to deal with the glitch moves. But I will talk about that in a minute. But as you can see, I've got the trainer ID I need, and so I'm just going to cut to actually trading the egg over to this game.
All right, so we just got to trade the egg now. Gonna have to do that pretty quickly. And then after that, I will hatch the egg on my Ruby version, where it will be shiny. Trade the Wurmple from my Ruby. And the not to egg. And the trade. All right. Now it's hatching time.
So after it's traded over, all that remains is to hatch it. Now there's a few ways you could go about hatching it. I think the best way to do it is just to hatch it in Old Town, but if you wanted to hatch it elsewhere, what I would do is hatch it in Old Town first to make sure it worked, and then reset the game and then play through to get to the location that you wanted it to be at. But as you can see, everything went swimmingly, and I have a shiny Chansey. When naming it, this was pretty tough. I wanted it to be fitting. I decided to name it after Blosy, a good friend of mine. They are mostly just like a Twitch chatter. They hang out in Papa Hefe's chat a lot. But if you ever interact with them, say hi from me. You know, I really like talking to Blosy. Don't get to talk to him very much. After that, you just have to get rid of the glitch moves. And there's a few ways to do that. You could either trade it through Coliseum to another game, or you could play through Ruby and Sapphire all the way through until you get to the daycare to delete them that way. The thing about these glitch moves is that while they are stable in battle, and I think you can even look at them in the summary of Ruby and Sapphire, they're not stable in the trade room and they crash the game right away. You can see even in battle, they are a smidge unstable, but Coliseum does not care about glitch moves in any capacity. The downside is you have to play Coliseum in order to do that. But at this point, our Chansey's done. And let's take a look at it in PK Hex to see if it passed my legality check. So let's take a look at this Chansey in PK Hex. I've got it over here. I personally opted for the Coliseum trading route. I traded it to Coliseum to get it into Emerald, where I then deleted the moves. So we can see that, in fact, it is legal. When you click it, the legal text box pops up. So I'll do that again. There you go. The legal text box pops up showing that PK Hex fully believes it's legal. Let's see if we did everything correct. So French ability is the one that I wanted. EXP stuff, that doesn't matter. Here's our original PID that we had. Let's see the Met, Fire Red, and Pokeball, exactly what we wanted. But Faithful Encounter isn't checked. So I'm sure you're wondering, why is Faithful Encounter not checked? Well, it turns out that this is a glitch exclusive to Ruby and Sapphire. So, if you check PokePret, which is the public disassembly of Pokemon Ruby, I'm in the egg hatching C file. You can see here that Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Emerald. Copy the event legal flag to hatch Pokemon. PCNY Wish eggs, which is what our Chansey is, traded to RS and hatched, will not have their event legal bit set and will not be Faithful Encounters. So that means we did all of the feel stuff for nothing. Because trading the egg to Ruby and Sapphire and then subsequently hatching it will actually cause this bit of data to be unset for whatever reason. But that does mean that it's legal with or without the Faithful Encounter checkbox. So these stats, as you can see, they are all correct. We didn't mess with them. They are all intact. And we have Wish. I opted not to have Sweet Scent on it, but you know, you could get Sweet Scent on it if you wanted to. And we got the OT that I wanted. So that is it being perfectly legal in PK Hex, and this would definitely transfer up to the later games. I've transferred it up to Gen 4, but I don't plan to transfer it past that right now anyway, just because I don't play the modern gens as much. But I will probably send it up to Gen 8 in the future, just so that, you know, people can have one of those. Especially if BDSP is still glitchy when I'm able to send it into that game. I will just clone dozens of it and transfer that to as many people as I can. But I believe that is all I wanted to cover for now. This was quite the journey. I actually learned a lot along the way here. The whole corruption stuff was really fun to learn. And I couldn't have done any of it without Xiao. And I also really appreciated the help from my friend Papa Hefe. Both of you guys were super helpful, and I couldn't have imagined doing this without any of you. I think you could recreate most event Pokemon this way if you wanted to, especially the Gen 3 ones. And I know for sure that my friend Papa Hefe has a Lanoon video coming out that you guys should keep an eye out for. It's going to be another crazy double corruption thing. I don't fully know what he's got in store for me, but I'm excited to see it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've got anything you want to say, stories, questions like that, leave them down below, and I'll see you guys next time.